Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 75 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, the Team of the Week features make their return with the New England Wolves. Located in Laconia, New Hampshire, the Wolves are set to hit the ice for their 8th season this fall, looking to continue the one-step forward trend that they've established over the last few years. Andrew Trimble and Tim Kunes serve as co-owners and co-coaches for the Wolves, and with Connor Bates rounding out the staff, New England provides their players with a second-to-none experience. Check out what the Wolves have to offer alongside their tight-knit community, and stick around to hear the E-Crew construct the latest all-time lineup. I'm joined now by Andrew Trimble and Tim Kunes from the New England Wolves. How's it going, guys?
Good. Well.
Thanks for coming on the podcast here as we work our way through the offseason. Another Team of the Week feature, and we're gearing up now for your 5th season of working together, your 4th season of co-owning the franchise. So, Tim, let's start with you. How do you feel about where things are at for you guys with your program heading into this year?
Yeah, I think we feel really good. I think in that time frame that you mentioned, we've managed to get a little bit better each year, both, I think at both levels. And I think you can see that with the wins, losses, and also in terms of the players moving on to college hockey or higher levels of junior hockey.
And Andrew, over the years, you guys have kind of changed the coaching structure, if you will. Can you kind of talk about the thought process that was behind that and where you're at today?
Yeah, I think that we all want to work together and work and play to our strengths. And I think that initially in 2017-18, when I was the EHL coach, that kind of provided some stability because I had been in the program for a number of years. But when we had the opportunity to bring Tim in, he's like a perfect candidate for that EHL head coach. So it was an easy transition and decision for us to make internally to make him the EHL head coach. And then I went, to coaching the younger teams, and now I'm coaching the 16s team. And that I think that plays to my strength as well. And, we have a bright young coach in Connor Bates, and we wanted to make sure that he had a larger role within the program. So he's kind of worked the other way from being an assistant coach for a number of years and now to coaching our EHLP team. And although last year was kind of some struggle, with everything with COVID related, I think Connor's did a really good job of keeping that team together, and we're excited about where it's going.
And where you guys are at right now, does this kind of feel like the perfect spot for each guy to be for the foreseeable future?
I think so. I think, we're excited about, like Tim said, we're excited about the direction we're headed. I think our youth teams are going to be stronger than ever. So that's a real positive. That's where we wanted to be. And then looking at the players and where we've gone so far with our junior teams and looking where we're headed with the players we have coming back, we couldn't really ask for a better blueprint. So we're in a real position to be really strong in every single team. And I wouldn't really there'd be a justification to make a change when everything is headed in the right direction.
Yeah. And Tim, let's start with that EHL team first, because as you mentioned, you've seen the steps forward every year in terms of the wins and losses, but in terms of the commitments. Let's talk about the commitments first, because the 10 that you guys had this past season was the highest total that you've ever had together as co-owners, co-coaches. What do you credit that success to?
I think, just raising the level on the ice. And I think that kind of translates into, these guys being, more coveted by college programs, right? When we have a better team, we're getting more wins, and the quality on the ice goes up, then we're taking steps in the right direction, and the college coaches, they want better players, right? So that's kind of how how it works.
And then let's talk about some of these commitments in particular. They all are impressive, and I'm sure you're proud of all of them. But there's a couple that I want to touch on. First, a player in Kevin Byte, who spends multiple years with your program like that, to finally see him get to that light at the end of the tunnel. What does that mean?
Yeah, it feels awesome as a coach. I was just looking at the roster the other day, and this will be the first year that I've coached a team without Kevin Byte on the team in the EHL. So that's an adjustment. But when he came to the program, he was playing forward, and he was an average forward in the league. I switched him to defense, and he's a guy who really bought into everything that we're trying to do here, and he put the work in and got the most out of it, and you can see that with his season this year, where I think he was one of the best defensemen in the league, and now he's going to continue his career in college. So really happy for him, because he's a great kid also, but he's also somebody who I think took advantage of the things we can offer here.
Yeah, and Andrew, we'll shift to you here for a second, because when we were on the round table out of the CCM showcase, I think I know who you were referring to when you mentioned a player committing from your program who was maybe one of the best penalty killers in the league. I think you were referring to Lantry. And can you just talk about a player like that coming to your program for just a single year? Not a big point guy, but as you mentioned at the CCM showcase, maybe one of the best penalty killers in the league, and to see him commit, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think it's been a complete 180 from where we were when we initiated. When I was first hired in 2014-15, we had a lot of really good players come in for 1 year, and then they would go to other programs. I mean, we had Chris Peters, we've had Jack Johansson, Will LaBelle, the guys who were really good players in this league, Christian Lacroix, really good players in this league, but we weren't producing on the ice at the level we think we're capable of.
Yep.
Now we reverse that, and kids are coming to us from other teams in the league as age-outs because they're looking to get to college. And Andrew was a player who was, somewhere on the cusp. He was a player who was a good EHLP player, but he really needed to make a role for himself at the EHL level if he was going to get noticed by colleges. And he was great in the locker room, a really good teammate. We would use him, maybe Coach Kunes would use him for only a shift or two, but they were really important shifts. And when he had an opportunity to go to Potsdam, they jumped right on it because of the type of kid and type of character kid that he is. So it says a lot for the full 180 that we've had in the last 7 years.
And shifting back over to Tim, we've talked about the increase or the improvement in the win-loss record over the years. And last year you guys won 20 games. Obviously the year before you won 25, but obviously a different total number of games that you got to. So you could say that last year's 20 wins may be better than the previous season's 25, especially when you consider the division that you played in. I know I said it on this podcast numerous times. I want to hear your opinion. Was your division, the New Hampshire division, was it the toughest division in the league last year?
I mean, obviously we're biased, but to me, no question, because only, obviously a limited number of teams that we were playing against, but every game was very competitive. Any team could beat anyone, which you saw in the playoffs, so that record from this past season, I think, like you said, is another step up, and we'll certainly be looking to build upon that for next year. I think, ultimately at the end of the year, with, injuries and a suspension to 3 of our top forwards, we can, the playoffs was some tough circumstances for us. So to me, that's kind of the next step for our program, is some more success in the postseason here.
Is it a breath of fresh air looking at next year's schedule and seeing a variety of opponents on the schedule this time?
Oh yeah. It's I think we also kind of scheduled those teams that we played against a little later in the season, so we can have some guys we haven't seen in a few years now.
Yeah.
On the ice, which will be nice for I think for all the teams from the North Division.
And I know, Andrew, I came up to you guys after the Lumberjacks series ended because really, I don't even remember which team was 1, 2, 3, and 4 in your division. I just knew that all 4 teams were competitive and anyone could have won in the playoffs. But there was one key cog for you guys that was missing this past year in the postseason, and that was Donnie Feldman. Can you talk about what he meant for your program, as a player, but then also you slot him in the lineup and how it changes your whole depth chart when he's in the lineup and how it could have made a huge difference for you guys?
Yeah, Tim and I have talked about that a lot, and it's really tough at this level to find a better captain than Donnie was. I mean, junior hockey's tough. You don't have 4 or 5 years to develop a team. You don't have, long-term contracts. It's a 1 year, maybe 2. You're in and you're out. And Donnie provided that stability. He was a leader. He set the pace on the ice. Sometimes I would go in at 6 or 7 o'clock at night when my day was over and lock up the weight room, and I'd see Donnie was in there doing more squats or doing stuff. So he really. And usually I would just like, hey, Donnie, make sure you get the lights, will you, bud? And turn out the door. He was that type of kid, and I think Arcadia is getting just an unbelievable kid, and he's going to contribute both on the ice, but also in their campus culture. He's going to be a great fit.
And honestly, if we had had a chance to play the college teams like we usually do last year, I think that you guys would have had a chance to have back-to-back captains of the All-Star team, because the year prior, it was DJ Swanky who was the captain of our All-Star team. And I don't know who we would have picked for last year, but Donnie would have been an awesome candidate. So let's go back to a debate that we had on the podcast, sometime during the season. And I'm going to put you guys on the spot here because it's a really tough question. But if you had to pick a starting centerman for a game coming up here between Donnie and DJ, I mean, the next guy can come on for the next shift, but who's going out there for the first shift, Donnie or DJ?
Tim, you go first.
Yeah, I'd say the answer is Donnie Feldman. He was the number 1 center on the team. And in fairness to DJ, I'd say DJ's best position is left wing.
Okay.
I agree.
So that kind of makes the easy answer there. But two excellent players who contributed a lot to our program.
And you guys brought this up earlier. Obviously you have more than just the EHL level. You have EHLP down to the youth. And while you've seen the improvement at the EHL level, you could say there's been even more improvement at the EHLP level, capped off by, of course, the championship in 2018-19. So whoever wants to start this one, how important is having that level of play to the overall success of the whole organization?
I was first hired in 2014-15 to coach the younger junior team. It was the Met League at the time. In the 1960s, actually, my grandfather, Dick Trimble, was one of the original founders of the Metropolitan Junior Hockey League. So it was always kind of a special place that in my heart, I wanted to coach at that level.
Yep.
And if you look at every roster in the league, we've filled rosters with our P team, getting good quality kids, identifying players from out of the area, bring them here on the East Coast, and then they filled up, whether it's our EHLP or our EHL or other teams' EHL team. We've done a good job of that. I think last year on Maryland alone had 4 former EHLP players, which is great. We want to see those kids get on to the EHL and potentially on to college hockey, whether it's our program or another program. So we view that team really as a stepping stone. There's nothing that they're provided that the EHL isn't provided. There's complete overlap, and there's it's an investment in all of our kids. So that's how we view that program. It's not just it's not a separate team. It's part of the overall strategy for our development of our athletes.
And Tim, what I noticed about your work with Connor is when you compare it to other teams, guys kind of stay separate, right? Like he's the EHL coach, I'm the EHLP coach. When we're happen to be in the same building, we'll go on the bench together. With you guys, it's all the time, whether it's an EHL game or an EHLP game. How important is it for you to be present as often as you are and to consistently work together like that?
Yeah, I think the main thing that we had thought of is that we want each of the teams to kind of play in a similar style That way, as like Andrew mentioned, with our goal is moving kids up to the EHL. Obviously, we hope for that to be with within our program. So that would make that transition as seamless as possible. That we're not, starting on the Premier and then next year you're on the EHL and everything is totally different and it's a huge adjustment. So kind of having that overlap in system, style of play, and coaching, I think that can really benefit the kids in our program.
And then shifting
Funny
gears
story.
for you. Oh, you go, Andrew.
Funny story, Neil. It's like, Tim has done a great job of providing, that structure, and he indoctrinates these kids at camp with, different video and strategy that makes up Wolves hockey. And we have a great U15 coach. His name is John Guerin, and John, when he has like days off work, when he's not delivering Coca-Cola products to local places, he comes and watches Tim's practices, and he sits in on meetings and goes to the gym, and he wants to get as much information because he wants to teach our U15 kids this stuff too. So it's really top down, bottom up. We're doing the same thing at every level.
Is he asking questions, or is he just kind of like a fly on the wall trying to hear everything out and take it all in?
He asks questions.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say next, going back to the CCM showcase that we were just at, Andrew and I together. One of the most common questions that prospective families ask to me is, where is my son going to live? Because that's obviously a very important question when you choose to play junior hockey, is where are you going to lay your head to rest at night? And there's a difference with how every team does it, right? There's teams that have apartments. There's teams that have houses that kids share. And then there's the Wolves, who probably have the highest number of billet families in the entire league. Is that something that you guys strive for? Is it because of where you're located? What do you kind of pinpoint the reason behind that as to being?
Yeah, so I agree with you that we probably have the highest number, but that's also our geographic location. We're 90 minutes north of Boston, 45 minutes north of Manchester. So there's kind of a dead zone, like when you're driving and you look at your phone. Between Concord and Laconia, there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of lakes, there's a lot of open area, there's a lot of farms.
Yeah.
So we really have to put our kids in billet families because we can't really recruit locally if we want to be competitive. We got to really get outside the area. And I'd say about 90% of our kids are in billet families. We think that makes it a little bit easier for us to manage their schedule, manage what they're eating, manage how they're where they're spending their time. But we do have a couple kids that we trust. We do put them on cottages. There's a couple cottages we have on Lake Winnisquam that the kids really like, and they can get out there in the spring, in the fall and the spring, and they can go swimming or fishing, whatever. In the winter, they do pond hockey right there on Lake Winnisquam. It's not bad living, but for the most part, we put them in billet.
And Tim, one of the concerns for a lot of teams going into last season was how many billet families were going to open up their homes with everything that was going on in the world. Did you guys have that same concern and issue up there?
Yeah, we did. It was a challenging season from a lot of aspects, and certainly, I think even amongst the billet families that we have, a few dropped out that I know are interested in doing it again next season. So,
yeah,
it wasn't easy to find homes for everybody, but we're looking forward to having those families back in the program, and just to add to the amount of families that we have, I think on the EHL team, I think we've had one local player in the last 3 years who lived at home. So just kind of goes to show you the market we're in, and the recruiting that goes into it with almost all the players coming from out of town.
It's as tight-knit a community as I think any organization in our league. And it's not because of just the living environment, but also what you guys do in the community. And Andrew, you jumped in with the Wolves a little bit before Tim did. Was it always a thought of yours, the idea of giving back and what you can do community service-wise because of the positive impact that could have on the organization? Was that always a plan of yours?
Actually, I would say it happened in kind of the easiest way possible. It was really organic. We put a kid in the billet, and then that billet family would say, hey, my mother can't really shovel snow out of her driveway. Can you help her out? So I'd send over 2 or 3 guys, and then we'd do it in another family. And before we know it, we'd have these small little projects going on every single month. And then the big game changer was when, there's some significant things that happened in 2015-16. We had, John Bradley Thompson, we had that affected the community in a real way. Max Gagnon, that really affected this community in a real way. And so we had an opportunity to make a bigger impact on a bigger splash and raise money for those great charities. So it happened 100% organically, but it's been really rewarding and been awesome.
Yeah. And then JBT night, Tim, for you guys to put that on, especially in a year like this past year, on this annual basis, to raise the money that you do, see the outreach that it produces, what does that mean to you and to the whole organization?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's a great event to be a part of. And, anytime you get to see Neil Ravin out on the ice,
I got one goal. I got one.
Yeah.
Tried a few unique moves too, but that's all good.
But it's a great event to be a part of, because of what it means, I think it every year grows a little bit, and something that's important to us, and always a good crowd in the building too, which is pretty unique, I think, for our league as well.
And I think it was probably in early January where I started talking about the game coming up on the podcast, referencing how I was going to shoot. And it's crazy how things play out, guys. I think I said at one point, don't bet against the Wolves on JBT night, right? And you've had some thrilling victories on JBT night. How is it that in the history of the event, both Marcin Kevich brothers have collected a game-winning goal? Is it just fate?
I think it's 2 pretty good players in this league, so that certainly helps.
He's putting them out there. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, and if you had to both games that they scored the game winners for were thrilling, right? The first one against the Chiefs, and then this past season against the Avalanche. But if you had to ask me which one had a little bit more, the extra sizzle to it, and maybe you guys would agree, it has to be this past year's coming from behind the way that you did, right?
Yeah, I that was that was a special game. There was a lot of people in the building, and playing against Avalanche, who's our in-state rivals. It was an exciting game to be a part of, to be behind the bench for. So, overtime winner was that's a game that stands out, in the time that I've been coaching.
And I'm sure if Dom is listening, he'll still give his brother a hard time that his game winner was better. But looking forward now, we touched on obviously the impact that you guys get to face new teams this year, or old teams, if you will, and kind of have a fresh, clean start. Is there an overall goal that you guys have for each EHL and EHLP team, or is it just, the same thing, take one more step forward than the year before?
I think like for me and what we tell the guys is, we want to make you better players, help you develop. We want to help you move on to college hockey, and then we want to win games. So those are the 3 goals. I don't prioritize one of those 3 over the other. Like, I think we can accomplish all 3 at the same time here. Okay. I certainly want to win as bad as the next coach, and, we play to win all the time.
Yeah.
But developing players and helping them move on, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. And Andrew, is there anything to add to that, maybe even off the ice, that you guys are looking forward to for this upcoming year?
No, I think Tim hit the nail on the head. That's a consistent philosophy from every single coach within our program, from the top on down, that we want to develop kids, commit kids, and then we want to win. Winning is a byproduct of those first 2. Yeah. When it comes to the off-ice stuff, though, now we're back in the community. We're able to do more things, and we're going to have a banner year when it comes to, involvement in the community, 100%.
Yeah. So make sure to give them a follow on all social media and check out their website. They are one of the teams that's out there the most, you could say, in the offseason, whether it's the CCM Showcase out in Denver, the Elite Edge Showcase in Nashville. They're out there recruiting hard. So I hope that after the recruiting ends, guys, you get a chance to enjoy the rest of the off season, and we'll see you in September.
Thanks a lot, Neil. Look forward to seeing you around the rinks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again to Andrew Trimble and Tim Kunes for coming on the podcast this week. As you heard me mention throughout that interview, they are co-owners and co-coaches. And with that, let's bring in Jeff Mills now. And Jeff will give you a trivia question to start things off. What other organization in the league has co-owners and co-coaches like that?
That would be the New Jersey 87s for 500 points, Neil. That would be Mr. Matthew Kieran and Adam Hooley.
Yes. Ding.
Yes.
You got that one. Now, not a trivia question. I'm shocked here. We're on the Wolves team of the week. I know it's hot, but where's the jersey?
Oh, my God. It's in my closet, and I'm blanking out. Do I need to go pause this and go get a little...
It's been kind of warm.
It has. I have the central air on in my house, but I wasn't really thinking hockey sweaters.
You don't wake up in the middle of June and think about putting a hockey jersey on.
No. If this was an October, December recording, yes, then we definitely have the sweater on. But yeah, that was a nice send by Coach Trimble. I think that was when we first started the podcast, and we were talking about hashtag Wolf Bite, and Coach Trimble had a nice little packet. I don't even think I asked. I think he just sent it to me, and all of a sudden I had it on my stairs, and it's a nice jersey. It's huge. It's absolutely massive because it fit under pads for many years. But
yes, of course,
it's a very nice jersey. So go Wolves, baby. Go Wolves. Bite.
In that conversation with them, obviously I mentioned the debate, if you will, between DJ Schwenke and Donnie Feldman. I made one of them pick, or I made them both pick one of them, basically. And I said if you had to start a game right now and put a centerman out there, who would it be? I didn't realize that Schwenke was more of a wing, so Tim had a great roundabout answer of saying Feldman's the center, Schwenke's the wing. But on our all-time Wolves roster, no matter what, they're both on it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Donnie Feldman was my boy for the whole entire EHL fantasy season. So he was very top of my list. Numero uno on the top of my Wolves forwards list. There's no way we were not getting Mr. Feldman on there. So those are guaranteed easy selections. I mean, that's something the Wolves have had, is they've always had some guys that can put pucks in the net, those two specifically, but I think there's a couple other ones of European descent, if we want to keep rattling them off.
It's so easy to then
just
put in Dom Marcinkiewicz and Patrick's Marcinkiewicz, and to go a little bit deeper into the story that I was telling with Andrew and Tim during the interview. They've had what they call JBT night twice, which is a benefit game for John Bradley Thompson, a young kid who passed away from cancer a few years ago. As I mentioned throughout that interview, the Wolves have this very tight-knit community where they're able to do so much community service, and then they put on these events. And honestly, they probably get one of the biggest crowds of anyone in the entire league. And it's funny because 2 seasons ago was the year that Dom Marcinkiewicz scored the game winner, and this past season was Patrick's. And they said Patrick's was a little bit better than Dom's. So Dom's one was a back and forth 6-5 game with the Chiefs that they actually, I think they came from behind, from down 2 twice or at least once. And Dom eventually got the goal in regulation that they won the contest on. And then Patrick's, I guess you could say, being behind 3-0 to your in-state rival Avalanche and fighting back to win 4-3. Maybe that one is slightly above, but it's such a cool night. Hopefully next year, Jeff, you can come up with me, because they packed the building, COVID or not, too, right? And they actually had everyone pretty spaced out last year for COVID. I gotta give them credit.
No, they did. And I watched that hockey TV feed when you're burying the lead here too, Neil. Anyone that didn't watch it didn't get to see you in the past year's shootout.
Yeah,
nice little lefty shot. Neil Ravin coming down the wing, put a little top shelf, a little gravy in there, and friggin'
honestly, I'll admit, moving in on that first breakaway, I had no idea what I was gonna do.
It's okay. You pulled one out.
But I was like, well, I'll see where he gives me a little bit of space. Most likely I'm going to the forehand because if I try a backhand and just like weakly rolls off my stick into the corner, I'm not going to hear the end of that. So I'll at least try a forehand and see like what it gives me. And at least I know that I'm going to get a shot off. So luckily that one went in. I know I tried the Peter Forsberg move once and I hit the post once too. But it's so cool, right? Like, I mean, there were so many people that donated to watch me shoot, I guess you could say. So I was obviously very appreciative of everyone that did that. And it's just, I don't think there's a game in our league that raises more money than they do with that one game right now. And
that was phenomenal.
And they'll continue to do so also.
Yeah. And that is a great cause that they have. I actually already have my envelope they mailed to me after donating to you and everything. And that's just, it's a great, great cause. And it was just awesome to see everybody. And like you said, it was like, there was no pressure for anyone, small donations, big donations, but it was like, seemed like everybody jumped on board. And especially after the pandemic, I think a lot of people, have felt that they need to be closer to people and realize that life's short and stuff. And, that's what that cause is about, is to remember JBT. And it's one of the best causes that we have going in this league. And just one of the many things this past year that showed how great the EHL family is, whether you're here still or you've moved on elsewhere, you're still part of the family.
What's awesome is like, I'm sure you can relate to this. So like on your birthday, every year, there's a million texts that you get, right? And then you get a bunch of texts when you post an announcement that you did this or that. I'm sure when you posted that you got to do PA for the Bruins that one time, there were a bunch of people that reached out and texted you.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, when I scored a shootout goal in the JBT night and the video went out there, my phone just started lighting up. Like,
is that you?
Yeah. Like, was that really you? Did you Photoshop yourself in there? Like, where did that come from? Like
you could skate. Well, I used to play years ago. A little rusty. But
the best was, I wish I got a picture. Chris, because were playing the Avalanche. Sorello was standing on top of the bench with his phone up, filming the whole thing, yelling, "Don't fall, don't fall." like,
because that's what you needed in your head to Sorella. Don't fall.
like the ice is all choppy. It's the end of the period, and that's all I could think about. So
don't catch a rut.
But we got 4 forwards so far. DJ Schwenke, Donnie Feldman, Dominic Marcinkiewicz, and Patrick Marcinkiewicz. The Wolves, for those that are wondering the history of it, they are similar to the Wizards in that they are almost an original team, but they came in the second year. So you feel like they've been in the league every season, but they came in the second year. So they have the 7 years of history as opposed to the 8 that you would have with teams like the Rangers and the Rough Riders and the Little Flyers. So a lot of great players still throughout the years. I think I want to work, back in the far history, if you will, and go next to Ryan Dunn. He was excellent.
I was going to say, are you going to Point Streak? That's what I love about these older teams. We go back to the pointstreak.com setup before we elevated our game.
So what's funny about Dunn is there is a picture sequence from a goal he scored against the Little Flyers that I can always remember in my head, that you can see the puck going into the net. It's just so cool. One of, as we can see here, quick math, 56 points he had throughout 2 years, throughout his time with the Wolves. So he was a captain his final year, and then obviously went on to play at Fredonia. I think he's definitely one of the forwards.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, any of those guys that end up being multi-year players. And I like that comparison too. The Wolves are the Wizards of the North. That's a very good comparison.
And honestly, they're kind of equal. Like they're I mean, the Wizards have the one Frozen Finals appearance over them at the EHL level.
But then the Wolves have the EHLP championship appearance in Providence. So
yeah, what would the Wizards do at the EHLP level? We may never know, but
we may never know. And we actually have a former Wolf that is a Wizzy, Jack Johansson.
Yes, I think that we're gonna leave him off of this because of the 2 years with the Wizards.
Yeah, I would agree. I was gonna ask you about that before we got on, but I think that's a good decision.
Yeah. That's all good.
And then
So
another one too is Josh Grun, now Walpole Express, Red Train,
yes,
choo-choo.
and returning for another year there as well.
Right.
So
he's more of an Express than a Wolf.
yes. So another name that they mentioned, Andrew and Tim, was Ethan Homitz. So I have to go back. There's 2 goals that he scored. You know what? I wonder if it would show up if I just YouTubed it right now.
Good old World Wide Web. I guarantee it might come up on that YouTube website.
You know what? It's right here.
Here it is. Top YouTube.com. Bada bing, bada boom. Game winning goal.
Gonna kill the audio though. So this is in Hookset.
I was gonna say this looks like Tri-Town with that wonderful rink 2 on the other side. Horrible angle.
And this ended a 30-game winning streak for the Little Flyers. I'm surprised you don't remember this nasty move.
Oh.
Yes.
Actually, I wonder if I called this. This one was this a showcase game?
Was a showcase game. Tom Smith was on the call.
Oh, my buddy Tom.
Yes. And this was so Hookset has the 2 rinks there, right? So they have the one rink on the left side. I don't even know what they call the 2 rinks, but the one rink on the left side has the grandstand, and your center right is calling from there. This one has like the balcony platform in the corner, and this goal happened on the far end of the ice, but it snapped the winning streak, right? And this was the 2016-17 season. Like the Little Flyers were a wagon that year. That was the year they faced the Junior Flyers in the finals, and the Wolves had a little bit of struggles that year, but Ethan Homitz was fantastic. And that was the one goal I wanted to tell you about from EHL action. And that season also was the first year that we started putting together an all-star team. So in the years prior to that, we had a non-commit game. We had a 95 non-commit game, a 96 non-commit game, and then we tried to figure out something different to do that year. And we played the club hockey all-star team, basically. It was all the best club hockey players in the country trying out to go play in a tournament in Europe.
Huh.
So when we got on the ice, and our goalie in one of the games was Doug Connor, who was 18 years old, and one of the players on the other team was 26. You can imagine how things went. But Homitz, I don't have the video for that one, scored a fantastic goal in that series as well, because we played them twice, right? We lost game 1 2-1, and game 2 was not 2-1. That's all I could say.
We'll just leave it at that.
But he scored a fantastic goal in that, advanced on to play at SUNY Cortland, had 22 points in 23 games the last season they had up there. So he was fantastic during his time with the Wolves. Speaking of scorers, a name that I mentioned with Andrew and Tim as well was Danny Cangelosi. And
Danny Cangelosi. Good Italian name. Justin Squitieri will love that one.
Yes, right? So he was also on that 2016-17 team, right? And we've talked about players that have changed scenery in this league and then immediately done something. I mean, he got to the Wolves and then 12 games, put up 11 points. 7 goals. Very
Patrick Smarcinkiewicz of him. Almost like the same amount of points in games that Patrick's had this past season.
You know what? We just so quickly named Tim earlier. We should acknowledge the fact that he had 18 points in 8 games.
Oh, it was only 8? Oh my God. Actually, does that say 6?
Well, I'm combining. I'm counting playoffs and regular season, right? So 6 regular season, 2 postseason, 18 points in 8 games.
Yeah, he was instant.
Like
he just came over and he was like, "All right, yep, I got this. Don't worry."
And Dom,
is he an HO2, Neil? Is he done?
No, I don't know what. Back? I don't know what Dom and Patrick's going to do yet. Would love to have them back in the league. They're both 0-1s.
Yeah, I was like, I know Dom was over in the NAL this year. He was over Minnesota, I think.
He look at the one season he had 61 and 42.
Unbelievable.
and he was the Rookie of the Year 2018-19.
Yep.
So he got that was the second year we played the college teams.
Mm-hmm.
Dom got run over by this guy from Plymouth State. And Dom is not the biggest player, right?
He's
Dom
a smaller frame guy.
Yeah, it says 5'9" here, like maybe.
That might be generous. He might be 5'7", maybe 5'9" on skates.
Like I remember watching that game against Plymouth State with Mark Kumpel, and the hit took place. And Mark, like, you know when something happens in a game and you just instinctively just grab the person's arm next to you?
Yep.
Mark's like, oh. Mark's like, is he gonna get up? And he, like, honestly, he said that, and then boom, he was up, and he scored the next shift, right? And I was like, this
Cubs, I got this. Don't worry.
This kid is tough as hell.
Yeah.
Like, damn, dude. So,
some of those smaller guys, that's the thing. Even though they're smaller, someone like Dom, like, yeah, he would, he'll throw a hit here and there. Doesn't throw a ton, but he'll stick his head in. He's just a good, very skilled hockey player.
Yep.
They both are.
And just so we can acknowledge what Swanky and Feldman did also, Swanky was electric in this league, right? 143 games, 152 points. He was the captain, as I mentioned in the interview, of the 2019-20 EHL All-Star team. Feldman, you never know, could have been the captain this past year if we had a chance to actually play those college teams, but a little bit smaller of a sample size, I guess, compared to DJ. He played in 37 games with 47 total points. So they were both dynamic players. That's only 6 forwards, though. Oh, sorry, 7 forwards so far. So what was there was another name that Tim mentioned, or Andrew mentioned to me, and
what about
you may
Harlow?
remember this one.
You remember Blake Harlow?
Yes.
Was that the one you were going to think of?
That was definitely one of them. I know that Andrew, I think he actually billeted with Andrew for a few seasons, and he is like the perfect example of climb up from the EHLP to the EHL and on to college hockey.
He's that natural progression EHL commercial kind of player that you want.
Yes, like he is like him and Mike McPherson, best examples of it to a T. So I'll definitely include Harlow.
Yeah, he had 30 goals in that 17 season.
Schwenke 30 goals.
Schwenke led him in points, but Harlow was right behind him. He only finished with 3 less points than him. 30 goals. You're scoring 30 goals in junior hockey. I mean, that's
pretty good.
You're a good player. It's pretty good. Good for the Bruins.
We have to include a present day player coming back for another season.
Okay.
And speaking of climbing up from climbing up from EHLP to EHL, Ricard Jelinski's.
Absolutely.
When we come out with the story, previewing next year's season, he's an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
He has to be, right? Like this past season alone, it was his first year in the EHL. He put up 51 points in 32 games in a tough division, right? As we heard Tim say, his opinion, the toughest division in the league. We're not going to get back into that debate that we had how many times in this podcast.
So we won't go back to Neil's conversations. I think the North's the toughest. Oh, Neil, you're crazy.
Hey.
And then it's all of a sudden like, well, Vermont ended up in the Frozen Finals, and so did the Avalanche.
Listen, after the first night of the Frozen Finals, I looked like a pure genius. When the Avalanche and Vermont were both 1-0, I was like the genius. Obviously, it didn't work out like that, but I was the smartest guy in the room after the first night. And then the Avalanche beat Vermont 9-3. It was we didn't know what to do with that one.
Yeah,
that was the weirdest game ever.
But got a little lost.
Jelinski's in the EHLP back in 2019-20, 87-44. So one more season in the league as he's an 0-1, he's returning. He's going to go to college. He's another perfect example of climbing the ladder up from the EHLP to the EHL and on to college hockey. And he's a candidate instantly for our all-star team next year. And you have to say that he'll be up there for MVP, forward of the year, you name it. So that brings us down to just 3 forwards left.
I was going to say another one from this past year too, Neil, would be Anisimov.
Yes.
Did we throw him on there? Is that the one that Andrew and I talked about?
We could definitely throw him on there because what I was trying to get them to talk a little bit more of was that when when Feldman was fully healthy this past year, and it was Feldman, Anisimov, and Jelinski's, that line was awesome.
One of the best in the league, probably. If you put that up,
like I don't know if there's a better top line, right? Like this is it kind of it's a totally separate debate. Do you like break up three players like that or keep them together? You know, it's the same thing as the Boston Bruins.
The Bruins, yeah.
Like it's the same exact thing. But like they were so good, and like that's the impact of Feldman's injury in the playoffs can't be talked about enough because it broke up that top line, and now you have to stretch out where you have different guys in different ways, right? If that top line's still together, now you're telling me that Patrick Marcinkiewicz is on your second line?
Yeah, that's that would have made a huge difference. That was unfortunate to see because, like you said, Feldman had such a good season, and I know he was trying to gut it out too. He was practicing. I was actually on standby because I was trying to use him for our fantasy playoffs, and we were on the horn, and we were like, "Is he practicing today, Coach Trimble? Is Coach Kunes? Where's he at?" And they're like, "No, it was rough. I mean, that's the game of hockey, and like you said, this year was a tough year for everybody playing the same teams. I think a lot of these divisions you saw a lot more hitting." Maybe than usual because guys absolutely hated each other after like the third week of just playing in-state teams, and then we ended up having that for the rest of the season. So the North hated each other by the end of this year. There was some healthy hate there.
Going back to the 1920 team, speaking of 30-goal years, right? You mentioned
he was
the 30 goals that Harlow scored, Swanky scored once, Jack Laurent. I mean, it's that conversation that we've had before where he may not show up at the top of the Wolves all-time scoring charts because he played one season. He played one season, 49 points in 46 games, 30 goals.
Wham, bam, awesome. Thank you, ma'am. In and out. Yeah, he was on the top of my list. Another really good player. That's the thing. The Wolves have had a lot of really good forwards in their history. A lot of
good scores. Like we're now down to
too. I can't wait to get the D. They have some good D too.
We're down to the last forward spot, right? And we haven't mentioned players like Matamonte. Or
that's another good one.
Or Tommy Condon. Or you can look at a player like Nick Marin, right? You're going back to the very first year.
Yeah, he was a captain.
The very, very first year of the Wolves, right? 2014-15. Went on to play at UMass Lowell. Like,
is that good? Yeah, that's Hockey East. Not too bad. Riverhawks.
So it's tough. And then you got players like Brian Lang, right? You almost forget that a player like Brian Lang, who went on to play with the Revolution and actually helped them reach the first ever Frozen Finals championship game in 2017-18. He spent the year before with the Wolves. And another name, I lost it here for a second.
Danilov was another one too. Dennis Danilov was another guy I remember.
He was awesome. Will LaBelle was another name. We heard Andrew mention that in years past they had a little bit of a tough time keeping some of those players from going elsewhere. But as the years have progressed, the program takes one step forward every year, and now some of those players are not looking elsewhere. They're coming back to them. Like case in point, Ricard Jelinski's, right? Like according to Andrew and Tim, he signed almost like instantly to return.
Awesome. That's
so and
who's the one out of them that does the heavy recruiting in Europe? They get a lot of. I mean, look at all these names.
I think the players do. I think
they kind of help recruit.
I think the players help them kind of just share that message, right? So
I think Europe, Laconia, New Hampshire, very different than a lot of those European cities. Love Laconia. Where's Beach? Great place to go.
Yes. I mean, and I think I told this story on this podcast about what Jelinski's had to go through just to get here last year, right? He had to like travel to Turkey, quarantine, get tested, then travel here, quarantine, get tested, never went home, right? Never went home. So you almost take for granted, everyone, it was challenging for everyone in this world, right? But you almost take for granted how much easier you may have actually had it than somebody else did, right?
Right.
Like we're both sitting in our house right now, right?
Yep.
Imagine spending 6 months away. Like,
That's
and then
so far away from home
the,
too. You're thousands of miles away.
and the pressure of, I mean, luckily for him, he has this season to come back, but the pressure of being an age out, right? I talked about it with Connor Bazal and Adam Zukowski when I had them on to talk about the Fellowship of Hockey Advancement, right? Like Zukowski broke his hand before the playoffs for the Rangers, and all he could think about was the fact that at least he has an 0-1, he can come back this year. Like, imagine if that breaking your hand, he hadn't committed yet, and that's the reason why his hockey career just ends, right? It's just
Imagine if it was Connor Bazal that broke his hand instead of
yes.
He was a big deal in that Frozen Finals.
Seriously. So I think I'm gonna put Nick Marin here. Went on to play at UMass Lowell. I know there are going to be people that ask about a player named Jack Musil, who did play for the Wolves. Also went on to play at University of Maine. He never technically played in the EHL though. He was for the Wolves. Guy? It was the year before the Wolves came into the EHL. They were actually an independent team. So
gotcha.
He never technically played in the EHL. If this was a program that had only 2 years of history, maybe different, but they got 7 years of history. I mean, this forward group that we just put together is pretty legit. So I'll list it off here after we do the D, because it sounds like you're excited about the D.
Yes, very excited about the D, Neil, because we got a lot of guys from the last couple of years. I think, Kevin Byte is one of the ones that I think of. Wasn't one of, it's hard to keep track of all the parents that were fans of our show, but I think his dad was one of the ones that used to chime in and comment and talk to.
There's so many, man.
Me and Britt, I know. I remember he was one of them on Twitter, though, and Kevin Byte was a heck of an offensive defenseman. And
the best thing that Tim said. The best thing that Tim said is this will be the first season coaching the Wolves without Kevin Byte on his team.
He was a 3-year guy. That's right. That was the other thing that really
what? Like he's always been able to pencil that kid into the lineup, like consistently. Yeah. Like look at the games played. 39, 41, 35, but obviously he didn't play as many games this past year. He almost played every single game every year. Like he was pretty steady back there, and to not have that piece of your lineup, like it's an adjustment.
It is crazy because I feel like I've been able to call. You can close your eyes. Number 22 for the last it feels like 10 years. Kevin Byte. Yep. Boom. Done. So that's gonna suck when we do the Wolves games next year. The 22 will be a different man. But
yes. I bet you I call him Byte my first broadcast though.
Probably.
I think I did that our first broadcast last year out in
we called somebody.
I definitely called somebody the year before his number.
Yep.
And I was like, that's not who that is.
It's like Jake Mendezun. Like, oh, what?
No, I don't think that's him. I was gonna mention Declan House,
that's my next one.
Another returner for them. So he's coming back this season. That's huge. As an 0-1, that's a good foundational piece to kind of build your core around back there.
You're Charlie McAvoy, if you would, Neil.
For sure. And he actually has already he's already played 119 games.
Yeah, he's another one that's been there forever.
So he's kind of got that. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go here. I want to look something up with the Wolves. I wonder if he has the chance to become like the all-time
games played.
All-time games played. So I'm gonna try and pull that up here while we're talking. But that's 2D so far. Who else did you have marked down?
Well, that's the other thing. One of the guys I was thinking of, I'm trying to see if we can get to some of the deeper names, but I feel like all the most recent defensemen have been some of their best. One of the guys I was thinking of was Warnell. Well, didn't someone take him late in fantasy? He ended up being big towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
He had 13 points, but I feel like he was a more impactful player for the Wolves down the stretch at the end of last year. So he was someone else that.
So let's see here. John Warnley played 2 years. I think he played 2 years with them.
Warnley, that's right.
Yeah, so 2 years. And over those 2 years, 81 games, 23 points, heading off to Assumption this fall. Got 3 EHLP games in there also. I'll put him on there.
Okay.
Let's go right here.
We could leave it up for. We still have that utility player too, the forward goalie.
We haven't decided what we're doing with that one yet. To get to that all-time record that we were mentioning before, yes, Swanky holds the record at 140. House is 21 away.
Byte.
Yeah, House is 21 away from tying that record. So you have to think. I don't know if he wants the record, but he has a chance of setting it this year for sure.
Knock on wood right now, so we don't jinx the young
Yes.
man.
Right. So let's see here. Other D over the history. We got 3 so far.
There was another one. He was he was a OG Wolf.
Yeah, and
was he related to Kevin LaCroix? There was a Christian or
yes,
Lacroix.
Yeah, Lacroix. And they went on to play for the Oilers together. I want to say one of them played for the Cyclones too.
Yeah, Kevin was the goalie, and then Christian was the forward or defenseman. Was he forward? Defenseman?
Forward.
Okay. No, so you cannot go on the defenseman. Possible utility, but he was another one of those way back.
And you know what's funny is, like, speaking of D that we didn't, or forwards we didn't even mention, Matt Needleman had a good 1-year campaign with the Wolves as well. 43 points. There's so many guys.
One too, Neil.
Who's that?
Do you remember Alec Forcier?
Yes. Well, he's a D.
Tough. Yeah, he was real tough. Big Pims guy. That's what we like. But he was tough. Going to the corner with that kid. How big was he? 5'11", 205. Yeah, check out. I wish we kept hits. That would be an awesome stat for us to keep.
All right. So if you combine postseason plus regular season the first year,
that's a big number right there.
It's 40 games and 198 PIMs, right? But 53 points in the EHLP. Now, where I guess you could say it's consistent, you played one less game and had 3 more PIMs the following year in the EHL. So, I mean, yes, he did not back down from anyone. He actually had, speaking of game-winning goals, it's crazy. My memory is ridiculous at times. I don't know why I remember this. He won, he had like a game winner against the Little Flyers also in Philly. When we used to I forget what season it was, but there was a year we had 4 division structure where the idea was that, Division A played Division C at C one year and then would play at D the next year, and they would flip-flop like that. So we actually had more crossover regular season games outside of Showcase at that time. And I remember Forcier scoring a game-winning goal down in Aston to beat the Little Flyers. So, you know what?
What do you think?
Utility-wise, Jeff, we're going to put Alec Forcier right here because he'll go out there and do what we need him to do, whether it's score a goal, assist on the goal, take a penalty,
run somebody over, kill you in the corner. He was just one of those kids I remember from all the showcases that he would pinball off guys, bulldoze guys, and you need those guys. Like we've been talking about with D, it's a very stat-heavy society these days, but with the D, it's not always going to be, the Victor Hedmans of the world for Justin,
So we haven't haven't even named yet the first commitment of the 2019-20 season. This was the first player to commit that in the COVID, the season that got ended by COVID.
All right, let's scroll back. Oh, yes, I was just gonna say he was another one because of his appearance. He was on the second episode we ever had.
So you say his name.
Rob.
Yes.
Like Rake, Hake.
So, remember? Oh God, this is embarrassing.
Story time. We haven't had story time.
The fact that we've given you a hard enough time about your little dolphin mishap with LIU, I have to take this one.
It's all good. We all took our lumps.
I literally said to him 20 seconds before we hit record, is it hack or hake?
Hake.
And he said it's hake like rake.
Yep.
And then
and we kept joking. We kept saying hake like rake, hake like rake.
Like you kept saying it.
On the,
and I'm like, so let's welcome in Andrew Trimble and Tim Kunes and Rob Hack. And you and Brittany were like, Neil, I hit pause and do it again. Like you just literally messed up the exact thing he said, how it was pronounced before. Like I was
me and Britt both were crying, laughing, look at each other like But see, that's what happens. Sometimes you say it so much, then you get in your head, and then you say it the wrong way because you just said it so many damn times.
We're going off track here again, but in the Frozen Finals, we couldn't say DiGiacomo. Remember you and I were
God.
like,
It got my head. I was like, did you? And then I was like, all right, now I'm gonna quit because I sound like I'm having a seizure. So Jesus.
So yeah, I
Oh
mean,
man,
I don't know, man. Like,
it happens.
we named one present D so far. This is actually another present D, Julius
Whoa.
Cavandel. He was actually not able to come to the country last year because of COVID. He couldn't
He's
get
only
in.
19, so
He's coming back this year.
Okay.
He's already signed and confirmed to come back. So I want to actually put him in here.
Yeah, you want to go back to his page for a second and look at the AKA name and try to sound that one out for me? Have fun with that, Turtle.
Oh,
AKA
that's
Julius
his
Skurvaheim Cavandel?
Yeah, I mean,
it almost looks like Brady Shea, like SKG.
That's the best with hockey. How do you get Shea out of that? I don't see Shea.
Skurvaheim.
So
Please tell me you'll say that one when he goes in the corner. Julius Skurvaheim Cavandel going over the red line.
I'll let you say that one. So that gives us 5 of the 6 D so far.
Yep.
I had another one here. I just lost it. I was stuck between
Old Wolf, New Wolf.
Well, this is the 2017-18. So I was stuck between Roger Powers, right,
Okay.
and Nick Ludman.
Nick Ludman.
So Roger Powers was the 2017-18 season. It was the year we played 50 games, right? So he played literally in every single game for the Wolves, including the playoffs.
Wow.
Every single game.
That's good.
And Ludman.
Good endurance.
Ludman was the season prior, played in 36 games. Wolves did not make the playoffs that year. That was the team that we touched on earlier, who knocked off the Little Flyers when they had a 30-game winning streak going. I think for
Trine, that's right.
Yes, I think for this one, I'm going to go with Roger Powers.
Okay.
And then, like we mentioned earlier, Alec Forcier is kind of the utility D for us, which then brings us to the goalies. And I have an idea of where I want to go here.
Yep.
I mean, even the Wolves coaching staff will admit it's not, like the Little Flyers who had 3 different goalie of the year candidates for us to choose from.
Yeah, that's not a rich history, but
I think
LJ Newell is probably
LJ Newell is up there. Another
guy that's played a couple of years too. You got to go with those multi-year guys, especially with goaltenders. Because we've kind of done both though. We've gone back, like with the Rangers. We went with was Robinson that had the 1 year that he played.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kurt Gutting played 2 years with the Wolves. Went on to help Southern New Hampshire win the NE10. I think he still serves as the goalie coach or as a goalie coach in some capacity for them. Like
for Snoo? So he's with Walsh.
No, for the Wolves. For the Wolves.
Oh, for the Wolves, gotcha.
Yeah. But this 2018-19 year, I remember actually going to the NE10 championship game. All championship team, obviously won the championship. He was the MVP of the championship, first team all conference, and goalie of the year.
So someone I think that you'd safe to say got better once he got into college than juniors, which there's nothing wrong with that. And I actually like that that might be one of the first ones we've done like that, where look at his EHL numbers, you judge him accordingly and be like, not the greatest numbers. Gets into the grasp of Sean Walsh and Neil Mulcahy, and they coach his butt off and turns into be their MVP for the playoffs. I mean, that's damn good.
Best player in the league that year. Best player in the league in the NE10. So other players to consider for here. We got one goalie spot left, right? We got Eric Bogart, who played for a season.
Wolf. Yeah, I think it was 14.
So actually 2 seasons. He played the independent year, the year before they came in, and then the first season. And then went on to play 4 years at SUNY Fredonia, right? Had over a 920 save percentage in college. So there's one option. We touched on Gutting. Another, I don't know if his numbers will show it. I actually remember Joe Morgan pretty well from the year that he played.
And not the baseball player, Joe Morgan.
No, this 2016-17 season was the year that the Wolves did not make the playoffs, but he had an over 900 save percentage. He had some performances where he got peppered, quite frankly, and he just stood on his head. Like I think he should have committed. Chris Matone was pretty fun to watch in our league. Has gone on to Fitchburg State since then.
He was a guy that played for a few teams in our league. That's right.
He played for Vermont first and
the Rockets too,
and the Wolves. You mentioned earlier. Where are we? Last year, LJ Newell, right?
Yep.
And you actually like forget that it was a 2-year stint for him. Yeah. I honestly forget that it was a 2-year stint for him. Won 21 games throughout his 2 years. I know we're not going to pick him, but in the year that the Wolves won their EHLP championship, so 2018-19, Ryan Flaig in those playoffs was dynamite.
Oof, 940 save percentage. Hello.
5-0-0.
Yep.
Like he was so good in those playoffs. So I think we're probably both in agreement that this should be LJ Newell.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. And he is lined up to attend Rivier this fall. So staying in New Hampshire. I think he's from Colorado, right? Look at that.
I don't see another. Hey, there we go. Littleton.
I don't know how I remember some of these things sometimes. Like it's just it's a miracle. Some
weird little nuggets. Look at that. There's our all Wolves.
So to recap the roster, the forward, that's actually a really good forward unit. DJ Swanky, Donnie Feldman, Dominic Marcinkevich, Patrick Marcinkevich, Ryan Dunn, Ethan Holmitz, Danny Cangelosi, Blake Harlow, Ricard Zelinskis, Sergei Anisimov. I did not spell that correctly. I know you're looking at that right now too.
Anisimov.
Jack Loran and Nick Marin. There are some awesome names in that forward unit.
Defensive, put that against some of these other forward teams.
Yes, seriously though. Kevin Byte, Declan House, John Wernley, Rob Hake, Julius Cavando, and Roger Powers on D. Goalies, Kirk Gutting and LJ Newell. Defenseman, utility, do it all for us, Alec Forcier. And you know what's great about this is there's a lot of EHLP to EHL players in here. Yep. And as we mentioned, in the interview with Tim and Andrew, the EHLP team does mean a lot to them, and it's very important to the program. And as I asked Tim, for some organizations, you see an EHL coach and he kind of lets the EHLP coach do his thing and vice versa. Whenever Tim and Connor have the chance to be together, it does not matter if it's an EHL game or an EHLP game. I give them credit because the hockey season's long, right? Like how many games can you truthfully coach by the end of it and not feel burnt out? But they want to be at every game because the system and the structure they have is consistent throughout the whole organization. And they want kids to move up their own ladder within their own organization. And they've done a great job because of that. And, we'll go bold right here. This is a team that I think has a chance to win a playoff series this year. And while they have the EHLP championship, feather in their cap, an EHL Frozen Finals appearance is coming for them soon. It has to be.
They want it bad. Like you said, and that's a big thing too, right? I think that's why they have such success with their recruiting and keeping their main guys there is because the guys get comfortable. If you see them at the premier level and then you move them up to the EHL level, well, same systems, same faces, same coaches. That's a nice thing. And guys get comfortable with that and they find a home. And yeah, they are. They've been building. All three of them, Connor, Tim, and Andrew, work their butts off. And, usually when you work your butt off, sometimes it doesn't end in the way you want it to, but it's got to someday. It's got to.
Yep, exactly. So
maybe that's 2021-22. We'll see.
Never know. You never know. So that does it for our Team of the Week feature this week with the New England Wolves. Actually, kind of sticking a little bit with the Wolves theme again. Next week, I'm having Dave Starman on, who is a hockey analyst. He does a lot of it.
He's a big name.
Does a lot of different things, right? But
very good.
He's kind of similar to the Wolves in that his son is playing for one of the Wolves youth teams this year. So a huge thanks to Andrew Trimble for setting up that interview. Actually already recorded it. Little tease there. He's excellent. He's one of the best storytellers in the world. So make sure you check out that one as well next Thursday. And then after that, Jeff, we'll figure out what team's next in our Team of the Week features.
And we won't say it here. Let's tease
No,
it.
we won't
We'll
say
talk
it
behind
here.
the scenes and let everyone think about what it's going to be. And you'll just have to go on and find out.
Exactly. Stay cool.
You too, my man. You too. Go Bruins.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.